All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our regular board meeting for March 2026. Can I have roll call, Mrs. Rice?
Mr. Antoine?
Here.
Mrs. Bonnick? Here. Mrs. Bowman?
Here.
Mr. Boyer?
Here.
Ms. Chahaki?
Here.
Mrs. Eichhorst?
I'm here. Let's please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, may I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Antoine, support by Bonnick. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are going to move on to our spotlight.
Mrs. Eichhorst, we should probably talk about moving board discussion and that up
Okay.
in front of the closed session, sorry.
Yes, we did add a closed session in last week, so can I have a motion to move board discussion for the good of the district?
Motion.
Support.
Let's see,
And public comment
and public comment up
in front of L.
in front of our, yes, I don't, you know what? Oh, I'm using my old agenda here. Motion by, was that? Chakaki, and support by Boyer. Any questions about that?
Oh, sorry.
All right, all in favor of that change? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Now we are ready for our Bulldog Spotlight.
All right, exciting time of year everywhere, but none so much as Romeo Middle School. Mr. Martz is here with some members of his team, so come on up, Romeo Middle School team. We're going to give the board and the public an update on the academies at Romeo Middle School. Too much pressure for me to play this one.
Oh, and it's on, thank you. Thank you. All right, hi, thanks for having us. I'm Jennifer Racevich, Jen Racevich at Romeo Middle School. I'm the academy coach. I'm very excited to share with you all of the things that we've been doing this year with the academy, and we have some guests today from school and outside of school to share some things that we've been doing. So first with the sixth grade, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what's been happening after the nonprofit fair that we had, which you know is a sixth grade Explore initiative. We've been, we had some nonprofits come in and speak to our students about what they do. So I surveyed the sixth graders on what was their favorite nonprofit that they saw at the fair. And as you can imagine, around animals were the ones that they liked the most as sixth graders. So we had Leader Dog for the Blind come in, and you can see Emmett. He's the dog there that comes in and visits with the kids. And he goes to other things too. And I said, is he a dropout? And they said, no, he had a career change. That's what they say. So don't ever say that the dog was a dropout. Okay. So yes, he had a career change, but he's their little ambassador dog. And then 4-H also came, and they talked about what they do. And then the students did a follow-up assignment, and they presented that assignment to their 8th grade mentors from the leadership class. And they were able to talk about what they learned about how 6th graders can be involved with a nonprofit and make a change in their community. We also had MSU Extension come out with the design and modeling class and do sphero balls. That's what those are. They program those, it's called them a chariot, where you program and then you keep adding weights to the end to see how far they can go. And then we're starting to build in some service projects in school for the 6th graders, and that's more to come once we have those planned. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Kara and her mom, Jennifer.
Hello, fellow board members. My name is Kara, and I'm here to talk about my experience at Forgotten Harvest and Romeo Open-Handed. Now, I want all of you to picture this. It's a cold December morning, and you're shaking like a leaf, and of course, eating one of those great donuts. But I thought this was going to be another boring school field trip. Or so I thought. When I got there, I got all bundled up and went outside. And I saw these cars, and I'm like, wow, there's a lot of people. So I was stationed on to give frozen food and put them in the trunk. Simple as that. But when I did that, something sparked in me. Sparked to help this organization, and a spark to keep helping more. And after that, it was time to go to Romeo open-handed. When I went, it was like I was having flashbacks. It's like you just see a tiny little baby shoe, and you're just like, oh, I had that as a kid. And you also think it's the most adorable thing ever. But the point is, when I went to both of these organizations, something in me clicked. I wanted to help more. And when I'm probably going to go during spring break over to Forgotten Harvest or Romeo Open-Handed and volunteer again. And this was such a great opportunity, and I think more kids and adults should go there for community service hours or just to be helpful to the community. Thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Conan. I'm Kara's mom. I was lucky enough to be asked and participate to go with the kids to Forgotten Harvest for one of their outings with the 7th grade class. This was an absolutely wonderful experience to see through the eyes of a parent as well. I'm very grateful for the middle school to be able to provide the kids this opportunity to give back to their community. It was just a pleasure to see. You know, kids, especially in middle school, they're so kind of wrapped up in themselves and what's going on with them, and this really provided them an opportunity to be able to see that there is a whole world outside of themselves, and especially you know, a large population that needs our help right in our backyard. And it was, like I said, wonderful to see them do this and not just give back to the community, but also to see the kids, from all the kids were helping each other throughout this. Lifting, grabbing, you know what I mean, talking to each other about just the ins and outs of giving the food, grabbing, and like what was needed. It took a lot of work and communication with these kids together. So overall, this provided them with a great overall experience, and like specifically my daughter really inspired her to do more of these things in the future, and we do have all the intention to go back. So it was wonderful, and I'm grateful. Thank you.
And I'd like to introduce Pastor Nathan Bills from Stony Church, is where we go do the Forgotten Harvest distribution. Thank you.
Well, let me just say thank you so much for having me here tonight, Dr. Robinson, the Romeo board. It's a privilege to be here tonight, really to speak on behalf of this partnership with Stony Church, Forgotten Harvest, and the 7th graders of Romeo Middle School. I want to begin by just expressing my sincerest gratitude for the opportunity that we've had to welcome in these students. So on behalf of Stony Church, I'm profoundly thankful for a local community, school community, that's being intentional about creating spaces for their students to get back into the community and to look towards the needs of others before their own. You can't teach your kids that early on, too early. Your willingness to open this door for this partnership's making a meaningful and impactful, a very tangible difference in the lives of many people in this community. From the very beginning, we've been amazed at the impact that these students are making week after week through the Forgotten Harvest food distribution. What started as an idea from Mrs. Racevich, pitched to me, has quickly become something that's far more impactful than I really truly would have imagined. These 7th graders aren't just helping, they're actually becoming leaders each and every week, serving, making a real difference in the lives of hundreds of families who are in need. I'll be honest, at the start, I had some very serious reservations. I'm not going to lie, okay? Some very serious reservations. I'm a parent of 7 kids myself. Fortunately, we survived at least the first 5, getting through 7th grade and beyond. Still have 2 more to go. But I also was a youth pastor for many years, so I know what it's like to work with junior hires, to work with 7th graders, especially when you're trying to get them to volunteer, and it's not so much like a choice, it's more of a requirement. But going on, I really wasn't sure how either our established volunteer team, we had a very established volunteer group who were already kind of set in place for this Forgotten Harvest food distribution. I wasn't sure how they were going to respond to a bunch of 7th graders getting dropped off on a bus each and every week. There's a predictability, there was a rhythm that was already taking place, an efficiency that we'd already found after we started this distribution. And a different group of 7th graders every single week could have potentially thrown off every bit of synergy and collaboration that we had found up to that point. Our Stony Church volunteers, I'm happy to say, they haven't missed a beat. And with open arms, they've welcomed every single one of these wonderful, amazing Romeo 7th grade middle schoolers. The students weren't just accepted by the older volunteers, many of whom are actually in their 60s, 70s, 80s. They haven't just been accepted, they've also been embraced and assimilated each week as a new group of wonderful students shows up. Our regulars kind of step back with humility and welcome these young people with open arms, encouraging them, guiding them, and empowering them to step into meaningful responsibility. And that's a two-way street. We know that. That was the endeavor, that was the hope of our volunteers. But also your students have come in, being willing to learn and being receptive to what it is that they're trying to teach them. So this has been a beautiful picture of teamwork and collaboration across generations. And I think we would all have to agree that this world needs a lot more of that. My only other concern in considering this partnership was something that I had no control over personally, and that's Michigan winters, okay? That's where I really knew we're gonna test and find out what these students were actually made of. I wondered how students would respond when the weather turned cold, when the wind picked up, when the snow and the rain made conditions way less than desirable. And I still have a picture in my mind of about 4 or 5 of these 7th grade girls as they stood. We have a small carport at our church, and we try to fit as much of the food under it as we can, but not all the pallets can fit under there. And there was a couple of the girls that were like outside of where the carport was covering up some of the other people, and it was raining. I mean, this is only about a month ago. It's raining, it's freezing cold. And I have 5 daughters. I know what my daughters would be doing. They'd be sitting inside the building, okay? And I felt so bad. I went up to Jen. I said, I feel horrible. These poor girls. She said, don't feel bad. And I'd stick kind of around them as they're working, just listening for them to complain. And I stand here today, not one of those girls complained. In the freezing cold, in the rain, not one of them complained. My fear was wondering if the excitement and the enthusiasm of being away from school for a few hours, if that was ever going to fade away for these kids. Would actual participation and what needed to be done, on the day of this distribution, would that drop as the, weather started, wreaking havoc on things? I wasn't wondering if the students would continue to show up. I knew Ms. Racevich, the other administrators would make sure that they're there every week. But what I really wondered was my concern with whether they would actually show up with the right attitude, the right spirit, and the right heart to continue to serve. And to this day, I have honestly not yet one time heard a single complaint from any one of these kids. And I know these kids might complain at home or whatever, but when they're in this community, they are representing your school district extremely well. Let me just kind of finish by saying this. We've seen incredible consistency, resilience, a level of commitment from these students that's both impressive and also inspiring, especially coming out of 7th graders. These students show up ready to serve with positive attitudes and willing hearts. So from my standpoint, what's impacted us as a church and our volunteers the most is not just the work that these kids are doing, it's the spirit in which they're actually doing this work. So the joy that these students brings goes far beyond the distributing of the food. They bring joy to our other volunteers. Our other volunteers look forward to them getting there. We have one lady, we call her Grandma Joan, and she's so concerned with every kid that shows up without gloves. So we've ordered lots of gloves for the kids if they come, unprepared in that way. But I stand here tonight as a pastor in this community, so thankful for your willingness to allow this partnership to go on, to hear young ladies like the one that spoke just a minute ago, just talking about how this has impacted her, how she would like to come back. And we've heard that from many of the students. They're already looking forward to coming back spring break this summer. And so from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much. Mrs. Racevich, thank you so much for your leadership, and we look forward to the days ahead. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight.
Thank you very much. And the donuts help a lot. They treat our kids with such kindness. The volunteers are wonderful, and they're upset that we're not coming in the next 2 weeks. So it's great to hear that they just are happy that we're there. So Mrs. Becky Hopp, she was supposed to be here tonight, but she couldn't be. So she wrote a little letter that she wanted me to read, and it'll explain everything that she wanted to say. So to the Romeo Community School Board, good evening. My name is Becky Hopp, and I am the Senior Director at the Romeo Washington Bruce Parks and Rec. I have another obligation this evening, but wanted to write this to be read out loud in place of my presence. I've been working with Mrs. Racevich, Mr. Martz, and other staff members at Romeo Middle School, along with the 8th grade leadership class and 2 groups of 7th graders. This partnership is truly a win-win situation for both the students and the senior citizens. Plus, it has affected me in a positive way. The first time the 7th grade group came into Romeo Senior Center, I was very nervous with what the reaction was going to be with both parties. The students started with introductions and partnered with the senior citizen before their lunch. The students had questions for the seniors to find something in common. The eye contact, the smiles, the hugs, the communication was better than any of us expected. It was the start of an integral friendships. It truly was amazing. I was also able to meet with the 8th grade leadership class at the middle school a couple of times. They're so smart, creative, and excited about their ideas and interactions with the senior citizens. There are students in a shadowing group, legacy group, exercise group, and inside the scenes group. Recently, one group came up with the idea and implemented it quickly. This allowed the seniors to come to the dress rehearsal of the past performance of Beauty and the Beast Junior. The energy was over the top. Publicly, I'd like to thank those 8th grade students for making this happen and bringing the seniors to the middle school to watch that performance. Thank you to everyone that was involved in allowing us to experience it. It was an outstanding performance, and the seniors haven't stopped talking about it. The refreshments beforehand were a special touch, and meeting the cast members with dessert after the show was such a big highlight. Some seniors asked for autographs. These students really made it special. Not only are there mutual benefits to bringing 2 generations together, but also gives the senior citizens an opportunity to see inside the schools. Romeo Community Schools are impressive and something to show off to the community. The senior citizens enjoyed seeing the changes that have been made through the years. I wish I was there tonight in person. I wouldn't be able to stop talking about all the good things that the middle school and their students are doing for this community and the senior citizens. I do need to give a shout out to the serve and culinary programs at the high school for having the senior citizens there for dinner with entertainment from the jazz band a few weeks ago. The food was delicious, the band is talented, and it was a fun night. I'm overjoyed to be involved with this partnership, and I'm very excited to find out what ideas the students come up with next. The senior citizens of Romeo Washington Bruce Parks and Rec can't wait. Thanks for your time, Becky Hopp. Next is Jacob Nelson from one of our leadership class students.
Hi, my name is Jacob Nelson, and I'm a part of the 4th hour leadership class at Romeo Middle School. Recently, we've been working on the Changemaker Challenge initiative, where students identify a real issue in our community and take action to address it. Our class focused on a group that can sometimes feel overlooked, senior citizens, and how we can better engage them with our school community. After identifying this need, our class split into groups to develop different solutions. My group planned and hosted an event where we invited seniors from the Romeo, Washington, and Bruce centers to attend our school's dress rehearsal of Beauty and the Beast. From there, everything was student-led. We worked through the full event planning process by coordinating with theater staff, organizing a schedule, planning food and decorations, and managing volunteers. This event really showed us what it looks like to take an idea and turn it into something real. The evening included a welcome reception with snacks, the performance itself, and one of the most meaningful parts, the post-show cast meet and greet. After the show ended, seniors had the opportunity to enjoy dessert and talk directly with student performers about the production, ask questions, and have genuine conversations. Looking at the photos on the slide, you can see that those moments where students and seniors are connecting, signing autographs, and enjoying each other's company. That interaction between seniors and students is where the biggest impact was made. In total, we welcomed around 20 seniors, and many shared how much they appreciated not just the performance, but the chance to connect with students. Some even asked if we would be doing something like this again in the future. Throughout this project, we were empowered to make a real difference in our school community by learning how to take initiative, collaborate with others, and create an experience that truly brings people together. Thank you.
Next, we'll bring up 2 more students, Ivy and Bryn.
Hi, I'm Ivy Goodman. I'm part of the 4th hour leadership class. In this class, we are also working on Changemaker Challenge. My group is focusing on the legacy of the senior citizens because I'm sure we all have a loved one who has passed on and who we have some unanswered questions about that we wish we would have asked. We want to make sure that their legacy is heard while there's still time. With this being said, my group has been working on a way where we could create a paper book that has some exciting stories that the seniors would like to say to their family or just have out there. We plan to go to the senior center and record our conversation with a group of seniors, and then when we are done, come back to class and make a little book about the information that they have given us. Not only do we hope that this makes an impact on their family, but we hope it inspires the future generations of RMS leadership to continue volunteering to help the community in the community of Romeo, Bruce, and Washington. I know this has touched some of the seniors' hearts when we first introduced this idea to them, and we took our field trip there a few weeks ago, and I hope it continues to. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Bryn Walker, and I'm in 5th hour leadership at Romeo Middle School. I'm here to talk to you today about something called the Changemaker Challenge. This is an idea that Mr. Martz introduced to my leadership class and asked us if we would want to be a part of this opportunity to support our community. This idea was to develop an inclusive carnival for all students in our community. We are working with Mr. Martz and many other fantastic people to design games for all students to feel involved and allow them to do things that we do without even hesitation. We've been visiting the students with learning disabilities at Hevel Elementary in an effort to build connections with the students and figure out their interests in helping create the games for the carnival. Our next step is to start building the games that fit their needs and then have the students in Miss Heikla's class test the games to make sure they're fun and easy to use. We hope the students enjoy the carnival, and we hope that future generations will continue to add to it. Thank you for having me today. Together, we can create a lasting opportunity for every student. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night.
That's all we have. Sorry that took a little bit longer, but I'm so proud, and I just can't help but get emotional sometimes when I hear what we're doing. So thanks for your support in us being able to do this. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Romeo Middle School team, before you leave, come on up. We have a tradition of getting a photo of your night here at Spotlight. So if you'll come right in front of the board table here, board members, if you squeeze in behind them. Staff too, come on.
Come on over here, up front, right up here.
Yeah, right up against, there you go.
There you go. Great job. That light. You're in the way.
Take a knee.
Just kidding.
There you go, Mr. Boyer. I'm good. I don't know about people behind me.
I just want to thank the administrators for Mr. Martz, Mrs. Vangler, Mr. Eldridge, Mr. Bartlett. It's a lot of extra work. But when we created the plan for the transformation at the middle school, people were kind of curious at how we would pull this off, and it's been amazing. The kids are outstanding, as you heard from one of our partners. The kids are so articulate and excited to meet new people. So stay tuned. We'll have some more for you later on. Thank you.
Yes, I just want to say thank you to all the middle school staff and the students and your parents that came out, just to see the different layers of not just what's going on in the school, but the community and how it touches, and kind of like ties everything together. It's really neat to see. So thank you for taking the time to do that.
So before we move on to our presentation for tonight, I really want to touch on, you heard some of the 8th grade kids talking about legacy. And so the concept of Changemaker Challenge projects is that one group may lift it up, plan it, but never get it to the finish line. Or if they do, they might need troubleshooting. So we're looking to build capacity so that in a couple years, every 8th grader will be able to be a part of a Changemaker Challenge in an area that interests them. We'll continue to get our 7th graders out. As a former 15-year middle school principal, like some of you probably have heard me say this, 12 to 14-year-olds' hearts are still pure. Everything in the world makes them question who they are and what everyone thinks of. So it's just a pleasure to hear the reflection of, we're just giving them a distraction and the ability to give, and at least for that period of time, not have the world focused on themselves. I'm so encouraged to hear how they're developing more what we refer to in the Academy's world as social capital, because by the time they get to this building and they begin to engage in, with some of our business partners and consider things in the rest of their life, all the way until their senior year and work-based learning placement or that, when they're when they get comfortable with being with adults other than their teachers, their parents, their families members, and their coaches, now they can really extract knowledge. And this niche that we've centered on, with connecting with the seniors in our community is just incredible. So we're just looking forward to the continued work and appreciative, as Mrs. McFarland said. It takes a lot. There's a lot of kids moving in and out, from the middle school now. And over time, I think it's just going to become who we are. No shortage of effort on the side of staff and administration. So great job, middle school. Keep up the good work. So the board knows that we're on the front end of the budget building process, and we don't get to control a lot in the budget world, but one of the things that we can control is picking good partners who have an expertise in helping us and understanding, past and future enrollment forecasting. So I'm pleased to welcome Keith McDonald to Romeo tonight, and Keith's going to give us a short overview of our enrollment forecast report for this year.
Thank you. Good evening, Board. That's a tough act to follow. Appreciate the placement in the agenda. Again, Keith McDonald, Vice President with Plant Moran Real Point. Very happy to be here tonight. Extended thanks to the Board of Ed as well as Dr. Robinson and his administrative team for entrusting us in providing you, again, another update with your enrollment projections, as well as to Beth, who's been absolutely fantastic to work with throughout the entire process. I'm going to cover some demographic information with you tonight, as well as district-wide and individual school projections, and then touch on a couple key findings. To begin, we're going to look at Macomb County births. You can see in 2020 there was a little bit of a dip in those birth rates. This is on trend to Michigan and national trends as well. In 2020, COVID year, everybody was kind of hopeful that we would see a flat line or maybe some increase in live birth rates, but we actually had the opposite. We had quite a drop across the entire state. That drop kind of remained, and then over the last few years, we've seen another drop. Over the last 2 years, though, in Macomb, it's been pretty flat, and we project, again, fairly flat, fairly similar when we get the 2025 data later this year. We're about almost 11 to 12 months in the rears of getting live birth data. At the bottom of the graph, you see the orange trend line. That is showing the percentage of live births that Romeo schools, who live in the Romeo schools community. And so you've been tracking right around that 3.7% for the last few years. SEMCOG is the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, and they provide some of their own projections on data. This slide and the next are both their data and information. Here is a 25-year look back, 25-year look ahead. We're nearing the bottom of that trend line down, but you can see it's been a significant drop in live birth rates in the school-age population in the Southeast Michigan area. And again, that trends across Michigan as well. If you were to look at live births in the state as a whole, in 1990, there were 150,000 plus live births. Today, there are under 100,000 live births. So we've dropped 50,000 live births over the last, do the math, 35 years. This here is just kind of giving you an idea of how you compare to other communities in that SEMCOG region. You're kind of right in the middle. You're not necessarily gaining in live birth as there are a few communities that are, but you're also not losing as much as you would see in south of you, like in Utica or Chippewa Valley. One of the key demographic information we always look at for school districts is home values. Home values are very important from a finance standpoint for any type of millage proposal that you're going for because taxable value indicates the amount that you would be able to raise. You can see that in 2020, roughly 50% of your homes were at that $300,000 value or less. As we move towards 2030, we're going to see that percentage fall to under 20%. So a significant improvement in home values in the area. You can see a lot of toward the right side of that graph where those trend lines are moving up. This is our methodology. It's a complicated graph. I appreciate that. We use geographical information system and demographic information to input that into historical data and calculate in live birth data to create our projections. So we're looking at not only historical data, but we are pulling in live birth data, both historical as well as predictive live birth data and GIS information to help build out your projections. With this, we use two methodologies. One is a 7-year look back or 6 years of transitions, so transitions being from first grade to second grade, for example. The other is method 2. Method 2 is only a 3-year look back or 2 years of transitions. Because COVID is still impacting the method 1 projections, we have really been focused more in on method 2 unless we see very consistent trends in that 2020-2021 school year. In this case, we did go with method 2 for all of your projections. With that, we have here your overall projections. And again, this is a difficult slide in a presentation. It's a great slide in a report, but a difficult slide in a presentation. The way you look at this information is to see, follow a grade level, and then you stair-step it down to the next. When we come up with our cohort stability rate, in this case with method 2, we are looking at 2 years back, so those are those percentages there. We take that average percent, and then we calculate in that live birth data, as well as that GIS and demographic information, and that will either add to that cohort stability rate or it will take away from it. In your case, it actually adds to that cohort stability rate. You have very strong cohort stability rates throughout your classes, particularly all over 100% until you get into your 10th, 11th, and 12th grade years. Here too, you can see here in 2025, when I mentioned that we had the 2020 decline in live births in Macomb County, that's your 2025 kindergarten class, which is why that kindergarten class moving forward is having a slight dip from where it has been in the past. This is an easier way to look at that, same information. Actually, I want to go back real quick. So here you have information that is K-12 information that is above that line, and then we refer to those other pieces there below the line. So those are special programs and special ed programming, your RVA program, shared time, your early childhood special education programs are all there below the line. And district-wide, we look at that and we separate that. When we get into your individual school data, those are going to be combined. So you're not going to see a direct number-to-number correlation between what we're showing here and your district trends in the next couple slides to your individual school slides. Here you can see that your K-5 population is going to start to see a slight decline over the next 5 years, again, mostly due to that live birth data. The middle school data, which is the one on the bottom, is tracking from basically 5-7 years ago. That live birth data and those classes, as those cohorts move through, you're seeing a slight increase there. Your high school in particular is staying fairly flat, just a slight increase. These are all pupils, so this is all students. Whereas here is more your resident only. And you can see in the resident only, those lines flatten a little bit. The elementary cohort is a fairly similar decline, maybe even a little more, where your secondary cohorts are a little flatter when you only consider resident only students. As we get into individual school projections, here you have, yep.
When you say resident only, a lot of our RVA students are residents, or were you saying traditional students in, just sitting in our chairs every day? Well,
You want an answer, Dr. Robinson?
yeah, but I don't,
That,
it doesn't
this
make
graph
sense.
doesn't include school of choice.
Okay.
Yep.
But the one previous does?
Yes.
Yes, that is correct.
Can you go back one more slide?
Yep.
So total enrollment, we're looking at 178 kids. Increase. I'm adding.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Over a 5-year period.
I'm taking 2025 and I'm subtracting 2025 from 2030.
Mhm.
It's about 170 kids.
Oh, that's what I meant, like which
Yep.
timeline were you looking at?
Yep.
1 year, 5 years?
We're looking at an increase of around 178 is half, that's 170 kids.
Yep. Yep. And this is FTE data. Yep.
Do you have what the birth rate of the area is?
This would be your live birth rates for Macomb County. I don't have anything specific to Romeo in particular. But we do pull that, that's where we generate your kindergarten enrollment number. So we've taken your historical live births based on the countywide live births.
I did birth in Oakland County. I just thought about that. I mean, Crittenden is Oakland County.
So this is, as we get into, again, to your individual schools include that below-the-line data as well. So this is your Amanda Moore Elementary School, staying relatively flat over the next 5 years. Hamilton Parsons sees a slight decrease. Some of these trend lines look stronger than what the actual numbers indicate. Here it's about 33 students. This is Hevel Elementary. Indian Hills Elementary.
Can we pause here for a
Yep,
minute, Keith?
absolutely.
So, this is actually interesting, and a couple of our board members remember the hallowed days of the redistricting from Indian Hills Elementary, plus 500 students, and you know, this just represents when geographic elementary residential area, the neighborhoods are aging out, you know, and the same people own the home, or even if they look to turn over, because Mr. McDonald's other chart with all those orange bars getting higher, you know, in value, this is what I plead to our municipalities about affordable housing for young families. So part of our elementary trend is birth rate, but I would also argue we're also struggling to have affordable homes for young families, even if it's a second home at this point in time. So I think this trend right now, you know, the line has a tendency to look a little bit more dramatic than the actual numbers, but to think of Indian Hills Elementary, you know, in a few more years, being down around 400 students, like, I probably could have, 7 years ago to 10 years ago, probably taken some wagers from some folks. So we just have to be mindful of this. I think this is where this helps us get some perspective. So let's take a look at the rest of them.
Yeah, and to your point, your 65 and older population in the community is probably it is your largest gaining population, whereas your largest losing population is your 5 to 18 population.
That's because they want to hang out with our middle school kids.
Apparently, you're not leaving now. Look what you got to look forward to.
Actually, that's a good question. So new housing in that how's that taken into consideration?
It is taken into consideration when we do our demographic input. So we've looked at different chunks in time of your housing developments. And so we looked at the last 5 years, compared that back to your, what was it, 12 to 17 years ago. And we looked at those. Right now, you're very similar. So you have 2 of your zip codes are basically unchanged in the amount of permitting. Bruce, which has a slight increase, I think it was about 127% of what the housing development was in that previous look back. And then one of your zip codes was down around 60% of what it was back then. So overall, it was pretty much on par from where it was before.
And I'm sorry, one other question. How are you taking into account overturn? Because I am seeing some of the older subdivisions turning over to younger.
And so part of that is actually taking into account is when we look at the demographic information, not only is your 65 and plus, your 30 to 39 has also increased, which you're the first community we've been to doing these things, that number, we went back and I'm like, really? Are you sure on that? But your community has increased there. So we take that into account as we build in those projections.
Well, that goes along with not super affordable housing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
second and third homes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Will we get a copy of this?
Yes. Yep. Middle school, which you've kind of already seen before, but this does include that line with all of the below the line as well. So again, that's following kind of that little bit of increase that you've had in the elementary schools is now kind of tracking into your middle schools, which then tracks into your high school. Some key takeaways, and really want to focus here on the bottom 2. Your birth in kindergarten percentage, it's nothing that you really can control. You don't have control over how many live births can take place in your community as much as we wish we could, and increase our enrollment. However, at the same time, it's nothing that is unique to Romeo schools. This is a trend that we are seeing across the state. In some ways, I would say Macomb is a little flatter than other counties that we've looked at. And then with regard to enrollment, you have a very strong cohort stability rate. And again, that's your percentage of kids that are moving on from first grade to second grade or fifth grade to sixth grade. And when you add in and consider the school of choice enrollment, you're generally gaining kids every year in those cohorts, which is only going to help you as a district. So very favorable indicator. It's a good indicator, too, that you have a desire to be in the district. So when families can afford those homes, those school of choice families are the ones who are more likely to move in. So anything that you're doing along those lines is indeed helping you with your overall school enrollment or district enrollment. Okay. With that, if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them for you.
So we're in our 3rd year of work with Plant Moran, Real Point, and I remember Paul, one of Keith's colleagues, saying, you know, when we can get a 3rd year into a 5th year in, that historical data that they're able to put in just makes the analytic work better. So, so we're continuing to kind of put these numbers against the reality over time to, especially in the special programs. The more Young 5 numbers we get in there historically, the more RVA numbers, the better the analytic will work for us. So if there's questions that come, I'll forward this to you. There's a far more extensive report that has multiple levels on both methods and that. But if there's questions that come up from the board, we can, Beth or I can get them to Keith and his team, and they'll get us answers. So thanks for coming out tonight.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I have just one, because I mentioned it kind of under my breath here, but the more I'm really thinking about it, when I think of where I live up in Bruce Township and the newer families that I know on my street and around, this may sound silly, but almost all of them are having their babies in Oakland County. Like they're doing the Troy Beaumonts, so does that matter?
It does not matter.
Okay.
It's a great question, because there are counties that actually have no hospitals. Like Livingston County has no real hospital until coming here in a month. But
Right.
right now, they don't really have a birthing center there.
Got
So
it.
most of the births are actually taking place in either Oakland County, or they're they're going toward Lansing and the McLaren, or they're going south
Right.
to Ypsilanti and Washtenaw. The births are generated back to the address that's listed on the.
Got it. That's what I
Yes.
wondered. I'm
Yes,
like,
that's,
that
it's
just
a great
seems a
question.
little
It was one of the
funky.
first questions I asked when I was on that side of the table as well, when I was in administration. It was the first thing I asked, like, how do you know? But that's exactly
All right,
it.
so it's really based on birth certificate or?
Correct. Yep.
Got it.
Yep.
Regis-
We're drawing them right back to
Got it.
the actual school district.
I have a question. So for one of the schools, we still have, where my children go, we still have a ton of open land. Is that not being counted on there, like potential homes?
Permitted.
It's we look at permitted, not potential.
But you're looking at a growth in that area, if there's still land to grow into.
Yep.
The growth in that area is still kind of getting calculated into that.
Yep.
The lots are bigger and
Yeah,
then
'cause
it's
it's bigger
more
around Indian
expensive,
Hills,
so they're
it's
not
built up, there's
producing
not open land.
the kids.
Your 39-year-old demographic.
Yeah, the other piece of that is not all of that vacant land is zoned residential right now, so it has to go through the zoning process, permits. I mean, I can tell you that there are two prospective subdivisions at 27 and Jewel that were prospective subdivisions
They've been
before
there
I
for a long
became
time.
superintendent. So sometimes it takes a while to get to that, and certainly the pandemic and that had some impact on that, but, it really becomes this balance of the zoning ordinances in the municipality versus developers wanting to invest. And we do have some new developments. People always ask me, oh my God, everything going in on Mound Road is acre plus, an orange bar at the far right of the graph. So we just have to be mindful of that. And that's part of this forecasting. If those things started to shift, then, we're going to do this annually to see that chart start to change. All right? Last thing I would share is, we need to feel grateful, because I would guess, Mr. McDonald, if you did 10 of these presentations in 10 different districts, you don't get to show trend lines that show some growth often.
Honestly, this is, like, I can only follow that group because your trend lines aren't what I'm typically
Right.
displaying
So-
up here, yes.
So that is
Yes,
good for us, that our
absolutely.
enrollment is stable and slightly growing.
I think it speaks to people want their kids to be here,
Yeah.
too.
Absolutely. Programs like what your middle school explained, it shows why. Yep.
All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, we are going to move on to our consent action items. March is always a busy time for school districts, and that's definitely evident with all the different special meetings and workshops that have taken place. So this covers general fund bills, finance reports, wire transfer reports, purchasing card expenditures, and then minutes from both our regular meeting last month, our special meeting on March 2nd, our study session held last Monday, and then, 2 weeks ago, and then our workshop held last Monday. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Bonnet.
Support.
Support by Bowman. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are gonna move on to communications. I think everybody was copied on that email. It was addressed to Mrs. Rice, needing a representative at the MISD on April 23rd. So
The
we can
annual
just-
budget presentation.
Yeah, for the annual budget. So we can talk now, or just put it on our radar that we do need a representative.
We try to have the treasurer go and then pick an alternate, so it would start with
So
if Aaron can go.
Aaron, you want to check your calendar? I believe it's, 6:30 it's a Thursday, I believe, the 23rd, and I am willing to be the alternate if needed. All right, any other communications, Dr. Robinson, you need to bring up?
Yeah, just giving you the flyer, I've mentioned it in my weekly update, the 199th anniversary of Washington Township. So the district's supporting the event with a table, and any board members that would like to attend, just let me know. And we have Mrs. Gethart's getting recognized with an award as a part of the evening, but having attended that once in the past, nice evening, and we want to support. And Mr. Perviti's gearing up. Next year will be 200. He's been baiting the hook for a couple of years, so we'll continue to chase it and look forward to 200 next year.
Okay, yep, that was Friday, April 10th, I believe
Yep.
was that date, so if we can let Dr. Robinson know on that. All right, we're going to move on to committee reports. We have quite a few. Policy, Finance, Facility, and Safety. Can we start with policy?
Yeah.
Mrs. Rice?
No problem. So we met on March 4th. All of the members were in attendance. So first and foremost, Miller Johnson has not released their revisions yet. We expect those between late March and mid-April, and then we'll bring them back to the subcommittee in May. Our administrative regulation 2006 on personal electronic devices, the planning is underway for implementation in the 2026-27 school year. The main changes are at the high school, where smartwatches and AirPods will not be allowed during instructional time. The phone pocket protocol stays the same. The 9th grade academy students will follow the middle school rules that they already know. And the RMS, the only change will be no phones at lunch. So we'll begin communications in late April, early May, followed by building level updates, parent communication, and summer reminders. We're also finalizing handbook language, regulations, and signage. On policy 4005, and teacher rhetoric that we discussed last meeting, administration reviewed all governing documents, including the employee handbook, the CBA, the state code of ethics, and the NEA standards. And together, these already provide clear expectations and accountability, so no additional policy action is needed at this time. We also discussed the REA grievances related to political and ideological symbols. And basically, there's no evidence of student disruption, so administration is recommending several guidelines to use district-provided materials, avoiding political ideological slogans, following clear enforcement process led by building principals, and then there's some, if there needs to be escalation to HR or legal as needed. But basically, it's just, we're gonna do school at school. We also noted new state legislation on cell phone use, but we expect Miller Johnson to issue policy updates that we'll review at our next meeting. However, our current policy, what we're looking at, is a little bit more strict than the Michigan State new legislation. So finally, we discussed a proposal for honorary board member participation at commencement. So the recommendation is to allow former board members to present the diploma of their own children with requests that will go through the superintendent's office at that time. And that was it.
All right, any questions of policy? All right, so we're gonna move on to finance.
All
Mr.
right.
Boyer?
Okay, we met March 2nd. Gallagher Retirement Service Proposal, all vendor data on the assets and contributions have been collected. Still working on the product and fees. They're meeting later in March to finalize this. 297 Prospect property update. We are gonna recommend to move forward with the flat rate amount of the original contract of the $857,000. This is resolution 27 tonight. The buyer is still working with the village on the number of parcels. We don't have clear direction on that yet, so we recommend to move forward. 2016 bond refunding information. The bonds were priced at an interest rate of 3.21 with a final maturity in 2041. This will reduce the school district bond payments by approximately $7.6 million over the next 15 years. 2025 bond sales, discussion of bringing to the board board resolution to the board in March for the approval of sales. And anticipating a May 2026 sale with a June 2026 closing. Will be sold in two separate series. The first series, 32 million, that's resolution 26 tonight. And then the 30 million will be in a future resolution. Executive budget recommendation, including a foundation allowance of 250, increase of 250 per pupil. Recommend that the weighted average funded model will continue free universal meals and for all and free childhood education. There is a concern though of higher eds and general funds being taken from the school aid fund. 2021 bond contingency budget, discussion of the contingency budget. Currently we have 4.5 mil available. 31AA, we've discussed this before. The Court of Appeals hearing is dated in April. We'll hear further on that. It's approximately $600,000 tied up in the 31AA. 271-2. Currently, our Employee Service Department is working with the bargaining group to come up with an agreement on how the funds would be allocated between the staff. 31A, discussed other districts' use of 31A and our 31A risk funding. Our current use includes reading, math, and special interventions, ELA and math coaches, EL and academic paras, as will also assist on high school summer programs for credit recovery. We adjourned at 6:12 that day. Any questions? A lot, sorry.
Yeah, we had a lot of subcommittee meetings this month as well. All right, moving on to facilities. Mr. Antoine, do you have that?
I think that's
I don't,
me.
is that you? Okay.
We met on March 17th, and all members were there. The first three items will be on tonight's board actions, so I'll go over those. But we went over a change order update. One was plumbing repairs at the administration building. Talked about relocation of larger doors to help with the stage doors to allow the band shell to move in and out. And then the one that's on for tonight is the improved staff workroom at Amanda Moore. We also had a good discussion about the contingency funds. Just a reminder to the board that there's contingency of funds that are assigned to each project and area, and then what's not used goes into a larger one that gets allocated as projects take place. We talked a lot about the deferred projects and how we can fund those, whether that's out of remaining contingency funds or looking to the end of the 2021 bond. We talked about updates for what's going to be taking place over the summer, and that's the abatement and the work on Amanda Moore workroom based on tonight's approval. We talked a lot, and I know it was in the weekend review as well, about service providers, the contracts that we have with Barton Mallow and French, and then also using our legal team to help us with direct contracts with some of our service providers so that the work would be directly oversaw by Barton Mallow, but from us to those groups. We talked about the sinking fund. That's always fun because it's a lot of discussion of the elevator that we are still working on at the administration building, and also updating the parking lot there. Tonight, on tonight's agenda, we do, in the personnel report, have the operations supervisor. So we're hoping with approval tonight that individual can start in April. And then we spent a lot of time going over a really good spreadsheet to look at the custodial service contract. There were interviews held, and Brielle attended all of them, so, you know, we definitely had board oversight, I guess I would say, hearing it from that perspective and then also from inside. And the 3 items on tonight's agenda are the custodial service contract, the abatement contract, and the Amanda Moore workroom, as well as the supervisor position. Any questions?
Oh, and just a reminder, because these names come up, Barton Mallow is our construction partner and French Associates is our architects for design, and we'll be hearing a lot of those names for the bonds projects coming up here. Thank you, Mrs. Bonnick. Can we have Mrs. Bowman finish up with safety?
Sure. We met virtually on March 19th. Everyone was present. Our continued discussion on the 25-26 school safety focus areas. Mr. Thomas, our security director, talked about the emergency response coordination and relocation and reunification plan in the event of disaster situations. He stated it's been a huge job organizing safe, logical evacuation bus routes from the rally points in the event of, something happening, and getting these students to the reunification center. So he met with police separately. They've developed road closure plans for every school. Specific police are even assigned to those closures, so that's very detailed. He shared our evaluation plan with Lieutenant Locke at Macomb County Sheriff's Office and Comtech Dispatch, and the lieutenant had said he had never seen a plan this thorough, so that's really good on our part in our planning. Comtech, the dispatch center, also has these plans ready if, God forbid, something happens, and every district bus, not only do the bus drivers get training on where they will take the kids from the rally point to reunification, they have the folders on the bus, and at the beginning of the year, the transportation department does, dry runs of where they will go. So that was very promising to learn. The last phase of this will be to decide how many first responders are needed at these reunification sites, where we will, get kids in contact with their parents and get everybody dispersed. So they're going to be working on that. That'll include law enforcement and fire and EMS participating in these reunification sites. So it's kind of all hands on deck, and Mr. Thomas has been handling all of these meetings, so that's a huge amount on his part, so I'm very thankful for that, because it takes somebody with a law enforcement background to really understand how all that works, so that's a huge plus. Then we discussed our behavioral threat assessment team, for short BTAM. That's our management team. They meet quite often. The meetings are going well. So now incident files from some of these behavior threat assessments are going into an electronic system. So this way, when students move from one grade to the next and as they get into a new building and have new teachers, then, if there's certain behaviors that have been happening, there'll be a way for those teachers or staff to get in there and see if there's a pattern, and that way they can, be helped in the event of something happening. So that's good to know that that'll be right there for staff and teachers to find. Shield update, that's one of tonight's action items. We're going to be discussing the safety director's contract. We're looking at a 2-year contract. Trying to see, sorry, I usually have it printed, but I couldn't get my printer to work. Okay, and then we discussed new cell phone legislation that had been mentioned before. The bipartisan bill was signed into law by Governor Whitmer. Our plan is we're gonna be adding on to that, but as Ms. Rice went through how that will be implemented, more info on that will be coming. And then we discussed the 31AA lawsuit update. After spring break, it'll be heard in the Court of Appeals. And then after that, it'll be 3 to 4 weeks before we get results. So likely early May, we'll know more about that at that point. And then we convened at 6:39.
All right, any questions for safety? All right. Moving on to superintendent's report.
All right, I guess circling back to our study session on March 9th and just trying to give a quick summary so that the community knows kind of where we're at this year. So grateful for the work of our leadership team from January until the end of February to prepare to engage with the board, and thankful for the administrators that kind of helped with our round robin. Anytime now in Romeo that we're going to talk about strategic planning or strategic initiatives, we start with our strategic framework, and we make sure that things connect to transforming teaching and learning, transforming culture, structures, and systems, transforming partnerships between schools and community. We've seen a nice glimpse of that tonight. And transforming facilities and infrastructure that we've talked quite a bit about the bonds and that. So priorities can come and hit one of these areas or multiple. And our leadership team and our engagement with the board, we just want to make sure that when we're thinking about doing things, how do they fit with our framework? And so the culmination of our work this year has kind of derived itself to really 8 leadership priorities for us to consider for next year. And we ended the evening kind of presenting this slide in terms of the 3 groups. We're not sure exactly when each group will come. We certainly want to hear a little bit more from the state on the budget and things like that. But we do have the 2 priorities from Group 1 on the agenda tonight. So I'll give Mr. Murray a few minutes to talk a little bit more about that, any questions the board might have. Just a high-level look at Group 2. We have testing center, paraprofessional staff here at the 9th grade academy and the high school. We're looking to add one of those positions to the middle school to help our students who are on IEPs and on occasion a 504 that need that additional support, so that teachers aren't doing this in the classroom while they're trying to instruct other kids. We're looking at bringing on board a board-certified behavior analyst to help us behavior planning and get kids on track who are struggling to be regulated in school. In conjunction with that, at the elementary level, we're talking about bringing in some behavior support paraprofessional positions. We've piloted that this year with success, and we've connected with a program out of Macomb Community College to provide specialized training, and those paraprofessionals would work under our BCBA analyst. When we look at Group 3, different but in the same, we piloted this year paraprofessionals supporting our kindergarten and young 5s students. So those youngest students kind of getting and staying in the routine of school. And we're just in a couple years where, we have a percentage of kids that are really struggling coming out of whatever preschool experience they've had to get through the school day and that. So we're talking about adding to the 2 that we currently have to have 1 early elementary paraprofessional to support those 4 classrooms at each building. The potential of expanding and sustaining our Capturing Kids' Heart implementation and support. And then finally, some additional manpower for Mr. Smith in the athletic department. This is really a game manager position. This is likely a supplemental position that members of our staff might choose because they have aspirations to be an athletic director, or they looking to pick up a little extra money and don't be around. We're coming into the spring season where as many as 4 or 5 home contests can be going on at the same time in multiple sites. That happens in the fall, to some degree in the winter, but we've talked about this priority for a few years, and it's finally risen to the level of having the board consider that. So I'll jump back to Group 1. That was Mr. Murray's Station 1 on the study session night, and let Mr. Murray talk a little bit about what's in front of the board tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. Good evening. Yes, this evening I'm going to add context to the slide that's here. In your packets tonight are resolutions for our first 2 priorities that happen to be within Group 1. The hiring of 5 elementary instructional coaches who would be cross-trained in math and ELA. That would be 1 coach per building, along with the hiring of 5 academic paraprofessionals who would be pointed towards reading intervention to support our students at the elementary level. I'd like to take these bullets one by one, starting with our instructional coaches. I will say that our motto, maybe it's just my motto, but it's a good motto, I think, are that when teachers get better, students get better. It's so simple that it works. And so we're firm believers of continuous professional development and professional growth within the district. And regardless of teaching acumen, all of our teachers can get better. And having site-based coaches, like we're looking to add to our elementary buildings, will allow us to support staff more at a micro level than we currently do. Really, our professional development is macro. It happens about 5 times throughout the year. And having folks dedicated to our buildings will allow teachers to continue to evolve at an even faster rate than they already do based on the PD that we're able to provide them. Bless you. How are we going to do this? You might wonder. First is by building trust and creating some vulnerability. Relationships matter, and teachers are more likely to take risks and admit struggles to a colleague that they see in the lounge every day, right? That they're eating with, that they're able to stand at the water cooler with, have a conversation about personal or professional highlights or struggles. Site-based coaches are able to provide more personalized professional development to teachers. This is very much a done with versus a done to type situation. Our coaches would be charged with working with teachers in a one-on-one or sometimes in a small group capacity to customize a collaborative growth plan and execute that growth plan working in conjunction with the teacher to maximize instruction that's going on in the classroom, which ultimately maximizes student achievement and growth. We do have some systems already in place that will help us with that as well, and are excited about the potential opportunity to continue to evolve. A big one for me is growing new teachers the Romeo way. Our district coaches are here tonight, Mary Sue and Noel. And Mary Sue and Noel do a valiant job of supporting all of our new teachers across the district that seem to come to us every single year in some number. But it's really, really hard when those teachers are dispersed through 5 different buildings, and it's difficult to get cross town. It's difficult to get on people's calendars and get schedules set. So, a site-based instructional coach for new teachers is often the difference between a teacher operating in survival mode, for the first 3 or 4 or 5 months of the school year, and ascending towards professional mastery. For a novice, a coach can act as a bridge from the theory that new teachers learn at a university to the actual reality of working in a high-pressure classroom on a daily basis. And the ultimate impact is that the bottom line is that site-based coaches would allow our teachers to get the right support at the absolute right time and continue to evolve. And we know that students who are in the classrooms of top-tier teachers can make growth beyond a year's growth in a year's worth of time, and that's an exciting prospect for us here in Romeo. Related to the academic paraprofessionals, we're looking to hire some paraprofessionals to be pointed directly towards reading intervention, as I said earlier. This evening, if resolutions are approved, there will be some positions that are discontinued. Some of those positions are our our building reading specialists. We have 1 per building. Our reading specialists do lots of things, including providing some direct service to students at our elementary schools, about 35 to 45 students a week. That's where our academic paraprofessionals would come into play. To fill that direct service void, we would look to hire these paras and train them to do the work that's already going on in our elementary schools. The majority of our intervention service right now at the elementary level is provided by paras, and so we'd just be looking to expand that system. Related to implementation highlights, staffing first. If these priorities are approved tonight, as I said, there'd be some positions that would be discontinued, 7 of them to be exact, impacting 5 employees for the following school year because we do have a couple retirements. So our reading specialist positions would be discontinued, and then our district ELA and math coaching positions would be discontinued as well. Over the course of the last few weeks, I was able to meet with all of these people in person and talk with them, about the change that's being considered this evening, and assure them that if they wanted to stay employed in Romeo Community Schools, that is absolutely an option for them. And so we were able to kind of clear the air and create an understanding of what Monday would look like. From a hiring perspective, again, if approved tonight, a posting for the coaching positions would go out this week with the interview process to follow shortly after. And we'd be looking to hire our paras as we got closer to the 26-27 school year. And last but not least, training. There's no shortage of training opportunities for quality approaches to instructional coaching. We're doing some research right now to kind of find out what might be the best fit for us here in Romeo, so we can move forward if approved. We'll also lean on our curriculum vendors to continue to build capacity around our ELA and math materials in programs. But ultimately, I know that there's going to be some pre-existing knowledge from folks who may consider applying and securing these positions. We'll look to front-load our coaching training so that our coaches would be able to hit the ground running, and then our paraprofessionals would get some training in the fall, mostly job embedded because our current intervention system itself works so well. They'll be able to learn from the folks who are sitting side by side with them working with students. So questions for me?
So for the team that you met with this week to let them know about the changes and some of the dissolving of the jobs, do you know if any of them are considering or capable or qualified to apply for one of these building positions?
I do.
Okay, so there is some reassurance there?
There was some reassurance, some nervousness, just because of the situation, but also I think some general excitement as well. I don't want to speak for the folks who are here, but yeah, I think there's a general level of excitement in terms of the possibilities based on the evolution. You know, as we spoke about, as you continue to evolve as an organization and student achievement and growth and teacher acumen continues to rise, the gap between your floor and your ceiling gets smaller, and you have to learn or you have to look for unique opportunities to continue to evolve and grow, and that's where we're at the elementary level in math and ELA especially.
Not a question, more
Yeah.
a couple comments.
Sure.
I just really appreciate that this information, just for the community to know, we are not hearing this for the first time tonight. You know, your presentation is kind of reiterating what we've already had time to sit and work through and read ourselves, but also sit with you as administrators. And I really appreciate the workshops. I wish we had more of them. I know they are kind of a drag sometimes on a Monday
No, they're
night
not
to
a
be
drag. They're good.
out till 8, 9 o'clock at night. But you know, nothing bad will ever come out of us being able to sit and talk and hear more from you guys and be able to have those conversations. So I appreciate, you know, your group, especially that night, was very insightful. So I'm excited about these things,
Well, thank you.
resolutions tonight.
There's definitely a lot of thought and effort and stress that goes into putting situations like this together, you know, and possibilities. And so thank you for that. Yeah, we're excited about the opportunity as well.
Any other questions?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you.
So we run the gambit with acronyms. I just want to make sure for the community that strand alignment, like I talked about in the beginning, when we talk about these group 1 priorities, it's transforming teaching and learning, of course, with these 2 priorities. So also providing space, Mrs. McFarland, if you can come on up. We have a resolution tonight that Mrs. McFarland's going to talk a little bit about, and then just kind of a public overview, some information from our Early Childhood Center.
Good evening. So I think around maybe a couple months later last year, we talked about adding an English language acquisition support teacher at the high school level. When we look at our increasing numbers of students who English is a second language, we want to, this would be at the elementary level, to ensure our elementary program remains in full compliance with federal and state mandates. The addition of an English language acquisition teacher is essential for meeting the rigorous instructional requirements tied to the student WIDA access scores. Current guidelines necessitate a tiered approach to service delivery, so some students are required to get 300 minutes of additional language acquisition during an elementary school day. Those students are usually our lowest 1.0 to 1.9 on the WIDA assessment, and then other students 2.0 to 4.7 are required to have 150 minutes per week with an English language development teacher or acquisition support teacher. You get out of being an English language learner in the state of Michigan when you score a 4.8 on the WIDA. So even kids that are a 4.7 still are required to get the 150 minutes per week. So right now, we have a teacher who is split between Indian Hills and Amanda Moore. So Indian Hills has our second, elementary-wise, second greatest population. Washington has the most EL students. And then Amanda Moore is right on the tail of Indian Hills. So when you have a teacher who's split, 3 days in one building, 2 in the other, it's really difficult to meet these minutes and instruct our students so they can acquire the English language. Usually if they come with 0 English, it takes about 7 years of English development for them to be proficient in the language. So again, adding that second, well, it would be third, elementary teacher would allow for a full-time teacher in our 3 elementary buildings to work with our English language students. Washington, a full-timer at Amanda Moore, and a full-time at Indian Hills. Are there
Any questions from the board?
Now we just have to find one, if it's approved.
So this was, yeah, because remember talking about this is fairly specialized.
Yes.
And they're not necessarily knowing the original language. They're coaching on.
Correct. So Spanish is our highest second language in the district, but we have students that come to us speaking Vietnamese. We have some Aramaic languages, Macedonian. Trying to think of the other one off the top of my head. But they don't need to know that language. It's really how to work with students of a second language and teach them the skills to learn English. But yes, it's a niche. Not a lot of people have it, so.
So we're evolving. We talked a little bit about the study session that we're taking another step forward to compliance this year. If the population continues to grow, then we think we can get there, but we're also being mindful of, not trying to do it all at one time. A, because of the financial impact, and B, because of how difficult it is to find quality teachers to do this work. All right. Next, Mrs.
Okay.
McFarland.
So Mrs. McVitie, and I'm sure all of the board has been updated on the work that we've been doing with the business office around the community fund, community service fund that early childhood falls under. And Mrs. McVitie has done a very good job understanding the number of families that we have, and really we are taking the approach starting next school year. We're moving from being thought of a child care center and moving towards an early childhood learning center and having a more school-like schedule and getting kids to be in programs where we have the most qualified staff in front of them. So as I'm sure some of you will remember, our toddler program is a 1-to-4 ratio and it is very expensive. So we will be discontinuing our toddler program for beginning next school year. Mrs. McVitie has already reached out to any current families that are in the toddler program that will be impacted, and we will work with them to make sure that they are provided services until the kids turn the appropriate age of 30 months. We are renaming, I forget what the original name was, but we're all Discovery now. So Discovery 2 and 3 programs will offer full-day programming for ages 30 months to 47 months old if you're 30 months by September 1st. Class will run daily. This is where we're getting into that school-like atmosphere. 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. with the option for additional time if or as needed for an additional fee. So they're going to start at 8:30 and they're going to leave at 3:30. Obviously, if a family needs to come pick them up earlier, it's just like a school. They come in and check them out earlier, but it will be a 7-hour day. We want to update options for our 4-year-olds. We did have a Discovery 4 program. When we opened our 8th GSRP classroom, all of those students left the Discovery 4 program, so that became null. I think in December was the last student that wound up moving over to GSRP. So we no longer will be offering the Discovery 4 program. That really was child care. And we have the two, as Mrs. McVitie shared, two wonderful pathways for our 4-year-old learners. We still have our traditional paid preschool. We have 3 wonderful teachers, and they are very well known in the community, and I think they're almost all full, but we are still accepting registration. But those half-day paid preschool classes, there's some that are 3 days a week, some are 5. They're half days, AM, PM. Those we will remain for 4-year-olds. And then obviously we have our GSRP, or pre-K for all. That's a full day, 5 days a week. I think they're like 8 to 3. They're a little different than the 8:30 to 3:30. We currently have 8 classrooms, and we're accepting enrollments. We can't move forward and actually register them yet, but the application is online under the Croswell Early Learning Center on our website, and parents can enroll and wait to be told if they can get in. And obviously, we would love to have a 9th classroom. So, are there any questions about early childhood updates?
And you might not know right now, and it can be in a future report, but did anything ever get lofted on the universal preschool, or
Did anything get what?
actually hit for free universal preschool, like not GSRP?
The income level has gone high enough that it's basically dissolved.
Okay.
There
That's what I
is no
wondered.
cap for income. We have to wait until May 1st. We have to take families that do meet a threshold, but after May 1st, income, there is no cap.
Got it.
Does that answer the question? Yeah. So it is free for all, but you have to wait to open it for everyone.
So when we connect the dots on birth rate to potential kindergarten enrollment, we know we're sitting in there in that probably 295 to 320 potential 4-year-old preschool students in the community. So that's the goal. If it's going to be free universal preschool, 4-year-olds need to be in our GSRP program because they stand the chance to be best ready for kindergarten. And so that's the goal. We know with the renovation of the building, there's still space to do some of these other programs to meet 3-year-old needs and things like that. But we will be an early childhood learning center, hopefully
Yes, we
for
will.
every 4-year-old in the community soon.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mrs.
Thank you.
McFarland. Just a couple other things in connection. I have myself, Ms. Pereira, and Mr. Storm here. We've got some resolutions tonight. So if there's any questions or anything. So we have under business services, the 297 prospect sale, amendment to the original contract. This is the original offer price of $857. We have authorizing resolution for us to move forward with our financial consultants to prepare for the spring sale of Series 1 of the 25 bond. And then, you know, with an enrollment forecasting report tonight, we have the executive budget proposal out. We are hopeful in April, when the legislature returns from their spring break, we're going to see a House budget and Senate budget proposal, so that the discussion in earnest can actually begin. And hopefully the legislature will give us a school aid budget by July 1st, which is their constitutional obligation. So we'll be able to move forward, and we've talked with the district leadership team on our enrollment assumption. And we've got the finance committee will continue to work with them and then update the full board. Any questions in terms of any of these 3 items and from business services? All right. Facilities update. I want to personally thank Mrs. Chahaki for sitting through a full day of custodial company presentations and interviews. So I'm grateful that she was able to represent the board there. Super grateful for Mr. Storm. Like, this has been a lot of work. He has been working with Jeremy Motes, one of our lawyers from Clark Hill, that specializes in these type of contract processes. So comprehensive RFP process, I think Mrs. Bonnick and Mr. Antoine would say we've kind of extended and kicked the can without going out for RFP for probably the better part of 4 or 5 years now. So we do have a recommendation on the table. Mr. Storm, anything specific you want to share? Okay. Okay. So our recommendation is to retain ABM with a new 3-year agreement that the facilities subcommittee got in depth in. And you know, sometimes we use the term, sometimes you just got to have people sharpen their pencil and look at everything. And Mr. Storm has done a lot to kind of fold in equipment and supplies and things. So this is a comprehensive agreement, way different than our original ABM agreement. Additional staffing. We've learned that there are now autonomous floor scrubbers that will be coming our way. Not to reduce staff, but to allow staff to focus more time on the more intricate cleaning. So we feel really comfortable about where we're at, and as the facility subcommittee report, just have their support to move forward to get approval. Anything else for Mr. Storm on that? All right.
Oh, is there any infrastructure need for the autonomous floor scrubbers or no?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Is there any infrastructure need for the autonomous floor scrubbers?
No, this is a Roomba on steroids.
Just checking.
Maybe those little black things.
All right, I do not have any slips for public comment. If you feel the need or have a desire to do any public comment on items that are not on the agenda, the yellow slips are back there, and we can do that at the last public comment time. Otherwise, we're going to move on to our regular action items. And we've, again, heard about these throughout workshops and subcommittees over the last few weeks, and then presented here tonight. So we're going to begin with Resolution 23, our personnel update. And the only thing that is hiring on this is the operations supervisor that we've heard about. And then this time of year, a lot of retirees are starting to come. So that is also on this list. Do I have a motion for that?
Motion.
Motion by Antoine.
Support.
Support by Bowman. Any questions, comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Moving on, resolution number 24, this is enrollment-driven staffing for the EL support teaching position that Mrs. McFarland talked about. I know this is something at the curriculum level we've been talking about for a very long time too, so.
So moved.
Moved by
Support.
Bonnick, support by Chahaki. Any questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. And then the last one for academic services, number 25, the Sex Education Advisory Board. In your packet, you will see that this is to approve the 2 co-chairs, which is our district nurse and one of our parents. And this committee is not really anything new, but the makeup of it is different to actually include a lot more people, so. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Chahaki,
Support.
support by Bowman. Any questions?
Nope.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Moving on to business services, resolution number 26. This is the 2025 bond sale, Series 1. We heard about that tonight in one of the reports, and this is just authorizing us to move forward on the sale of that bond in this series.
Motion.
Support.
Okay, motion by Antoine. We'll give that second to Bonnick, I think. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Number 27, this is the 297 Prospect Amendment to Purchase. This is just to go to the original purchase price, which is $857,000.
Motion.
Motion by Boyer, support by Rice. Any questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. All right, moving on to Facilities Resolution number 28, the 2021 Bond Group 4 projects. The funny that we're still talking about the 2021 bond projects, but that's how it works. But this will be for this summer's abatement project.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, moved by Bonnick, support by Antoine. Any questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Facilities Resolution Number 29. This is the 2021 bond group projects, Group 4 projects, the change order approval to go ahead with the Amanda Moore Workroom Project.
Motion.
Motion by Antoine. Support. Support by Chahaki. Any questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And Facilities Resolution Number 30, this is the custodial service contract. That we will continue with the same company. Moved by Bonnick. Support. Support by Chahaki. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. We're moving on now to our leadership priorities, Group 1, that we were presented and had some time to really pick apart and dive into at our workshop a couple weeks ago. This is Superintendent's Resolution 31A. That's 26-27 Leadership Priorities, Group 1 for the elementary instructional coaches.
Motion.
Motion by Chahaki,
Support.
support by Bowman. Any further questions, comments on that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. And Superintendent Resolution Number 31B, Leadership Priorities Group 1. This is specifically dealing with the elementary academic para-pro positions.
Motion.
Motion by Chahaki.
Support.
Support by Bonnick. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion passes. And then lastly, the Superintendent's Resolution Number 32. This is our Shield Safety Director contract, which was in our safeties report.
Motion.
Motion by Rice. I will support that. Any questions?
I would just like to just put some words out there just to let you know that I had some questions today. I spoke with the chair, Allison, and I also spoke with Rachel, and I spoke with Dr. Robinson regarding it. And I just had some questions, and it's not anything to do with Mr. Thomas's expertise. I think we have a valuable resource in him and having him with his connections and his background. My questions were more, okay, is the salary in line with other districts that have security directors? Just to make sure, just to confirm, just so I could see it. That's all I was looking for, some hard, data. So I asked that question, and then I wanted to know basically how he's integrated into our district. Okay, what I mean by that is, who does he respond to? Who holds him accountable? I know that he, has a safety committee, but internally, who holds him accountable? Does he set goals for himself? Does he, how is he integrated? Most districts don't have this kind of position. I don't have the background in it, so that's why I asked these types of questions. And then, and I want us to be able to hold him accountable and set goals, and then we get updates on it. And then I would also think that would be nice for him to be able to present to the full board so we know what he's doing and we can get a little outside benefit. But to hear what Ms. Bowman was talking about, what he was doing with the different things that our district is doing with our safety plan, the reunification stuff, totally valuable. I just want to know kind of what he's doing day to day and who he's accountable to and that. So I had those questions. But, I support anything that we do, but I don't know if we can get some of that added in, once we vote for it or whatever. More or less a job description. We got something from the company,
Right.
but internally, what do we expect from him?
Right.
Who does hold him accountable?
Right now, it's Dr. Robinson.
Yep. Yeah.
And also the leadership from Shield.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
he's
it's-
got He's got a boss, he's got bi-monthly meetings.
Got to answer to
And,
two
yeah.
entities. And I used to work under him, so, you know, I had some more insight of when I was security, so I appreciated Mike asking those questions, because when these subcommittees meet, it's just a few of us, and then we have to type up the report and report back to the full board, so even though it's on paper and they might ask us questions, we don't always understand the full scope, so that was why these questions were coming, and this comes for all committees, so it wasn't anything to do with performance, it was just understanding, especially if you don't have that law enforcement background or you haven't worked under him like I did. So I really appreciated Mike coming to me with those questions.
Who was the support, Mrs. Ikorst? I missed that. Was that?
That was me.
Okay.
All right, thank you for that, Mr. Antoine.
You're
Any other questions? All right. All right, all in favor of Resolution 32?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. All right, we're gonna move on right now for board discussion for the good of the district. Well, there's a busy time of year, lots of good things going on. I heard great things about the Beauty and the Beast play this past week at the middle school. I was unable to attend, but I heard it was amazing. Hopefully, a lot of you got to take advantage of that, so.
I did. I took my kids. It was awesome.
All right, so, one thing.
Yep, go ahead.
As a, okay, sorry. So as board treasurer, I wanted to recognize the sale of the 279 Prospect as a process of selling an asset that is no longer needed by the district that began around 3 years ago. I want to thank the developer for stepping up and offering the amendment to the finalize of the sale, despite the ongoing due diligence conversations with the Village of Romeo having not been finalized. Most importantly, I want to clarify for the public that the proceeds from the sale will be placed in a specific capital project account, which has been in the intent of the Board of Education's plan since the planning of the original RFP. The Board of Education will work with the district leadership in improving the use of these funds as an investment into our facility and our infrastructure that might not otherwise be accounted from other specific funding sources. They will not be used for salary, benefits, or other regular district expenditures. Thank you.
Good point. Thank you.
Okay, I have 3 things.
All right, Mrs. Chahaki.
Less serious.
Sorry. My first one is, do we know why our calendar does not have board meetings on it anymore?
Do you speak of our district calendar
Our
online?
district calendar. You have to like go into our link to find when we meet, and I just feel like it should be on there.
Sorry, the board calendar is on the Board of Education
Separate tab.
page.
Right,
Right.
so
Yeah.
it used to be on the big one.
District
The
calendar
district
page.
one, on the main page.
Oh, yeah, that's not a big deal. We can put them on there.
Okay. My second one is, so when we were looking at school of choice a few weeks ago, and then this guy coming today, I have one question. There's a 3rd grade section at Hamilton Parsons that has 88 students in it, that the other schools only have like 4 or 5 less than that. And I guess my question is because there's a 4th grade section at Hamilton Parsons with 96 students that has 4 sections. Is there a number that we get to where we say we need to have a 4th section? Because I already know that there is one incoming 3rd grader, one incoming 4th grader next year, which would bring it to 89. And then if we have a few more with new people, you're in the 90s. So I guess my question is what is the number?
It's based on the contractual class size language. When that triggers that we have to add a section based on the contract, then we add the section. So we're monitoring that as we have been since they came in as kindergartners with the 4 section.
Okay.
And now, of course, monitoring that 3rd grade cohort as well.
So you really wouldn't know until August?
No, if they enroll and they enroll early, we know when they're enrolled. I mean,
Okay.
we're tracking that regularly now, and that tracking spreadsheet will also help. We'll engage that next month.
Okay.
So,
Just because I feel like if we get closer to 90, maybe we should talk about a 4th section, and then it's better earlier to hire a teacher now than instead of waiting until September.
if it happens, you'll hear enrollment-driven staffing increase for sure.
Okay.
I would also remind, folks that as kids get older, the class size goes up.
Right.
So what that was when we had those kids in kindergarten looked way different than what it would be in fourth and fifth grade in terms of the class size.
And then my last one is, I don't know if we discussed this as a board or with whatever, but since we've been getting the student conduct reports, I'm noticing all of these behaviors and these bullying on these papers. And I guess I just want to discuss, like, what are we doing about it? I understand that we voted on the behavior support paras and all of that, but I feel like, I don't know if we're missing something with supporting the teachers, supporting the students, supporting the admin and all of that, but I feel like there's some kind of gap that we're missing, and I don't know if it's the consequences are just being brushed under the rug, or I don't know, but I can't ignore this anymore with what's going on in these schools, because the elementary is so bad right now, and they're going into middle school and then nothing's being solved. And there's kids around them that are not getting the proper education because of what's happening in these classrooms. So I don't know how to fix this, but I don't want to just read these conduct reports and say, oh, look at all these behaviors, and then just go about my day. So I don't know how we discuss that. I don't know what to do with that, but.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a burden and it's not specific to Romeo, teachers feel that across
Right.
the entire state.
Right.
So it's definitely a culture thing too, that we try to do our best, but there's so many things that are outside of our control. But I appreciate this board is very engaged and wants to do whatever we can do within our circle of control, so. Any other thoughts, comments? All right, I did not receive any slips. Oh, I have somebody in the back. Mr. Elter, would you like to come forward? All right. Oh, okay. You can turn that right in, and Mr. Murray will turn your mic on for you.
It's a little bit empty, but
Well, you can fill it out before you leave. Go ahead.
all right, good evening. My name is Max Elter. I'll try to keep this short. I'm sure everyone's had a very long day. I'm a 12th grade student at Romeo High School in the DEM Academy and the Mechatronics Pathway, and I'm here tonight as a representative of the Tri-M Music Honors Association and the Romeo High School Student Senate School Improvement Committee. So I'm here tonight with more of an idea rather than a comment for you guys. I've been in the band program for 7 years, and my sister was also in the band program for 7 years before that. And since then, the new high school has been built, and I've noticed that the auditorium there doesn't exactly have a more profound name. It's the Romeo High School Auditorium. And both of the directors at Romeo High School were former students of the high school, and they were instructed under the former director of bands at Romeo High School, John Reinhard. He has since retired from teaching at Romeo High School, and that's been around 20 years since then. He was known as a respected man by his students, colleagues, and the community, and he was overall well known as just a happy guy to be around. My idea that I've discussed with Mr. Oswald at the high school and have brought up in the Student Senate was to dedicate the Romeo High School Auditorium to John Reinhard and establish that name at the Romeo High School Band Banquet maybe in May of this year. This has been an ongoing project that I've worked with the Tri-M Honors Association, and I sent an email to Dr. Robinson earlier this year on January 6th, I believe it was. I don't know if you didn't receive it or not, but I sent an email just detailing the outline of the idea as it was back earlier in January of this year. And it's developed a lot more since then. Me and a couple of friends whose parents were students, the Kuchemester family, have gone to the Romeo archives and done research on his time at the high school of him as a teacher, and I think he would be a wonderful fit for a dedication name for a location at our school. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Elter. We will follow up with you on that, if you don't mind filling that out.
Name and contact info.
Appreciate it, thank you. All right. Don't think we have anything else. Thank you so much for everybody that came and stuck with us. This is one of our longer meetings we've had lately. But do I have a motion now to go into closed session, and this is to discuss collective bargaining?
Motion.
Motion by Rice.
Support.
Support by Chahaki. Can I have roll call for that?
Mr. Antoine?
Yes.
Ms. Sonic?
Yes.
Mrs. Bowman?
Yes.
Mr. Boyer?
Yes.
Mr. Chahaki?
Yes.
Mrs. Eichhorst?
Yes. All right. Chahaki, yep. And we will have no other action after we come out of that, so thank you again for coming.